Hey everyone, this is Bo from the Mari server. I'm here to do a video on races in Mabinogi. That's right. Now, I haven't really covered any video on races in Mabinogi, and it's actually a really important topic to cover. I mean, there's 3 races in Mabinogi, so it's good to know the advantages and disadvantages each race have and kind of compare them so you know which one to choose. Alright, so let's get started. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to show you guys would be the physical appearances of each race. Here is the human race. It's basically, just my character. You can see that it's short right now, but you can actually be a taller character if you wish. There are different styles you can choose from in terms of eyes, mouths, hair. You can see that there are no racial tattoos for humans, though. There's like some other tattoos, but no racial tattoos whatsoever. And definitely lots of different types of mouths and stuff. It's going to be different for all races, so do keep that in mind. Alright, so this is the human race in terms of physical appearance. Okay, so the next race I'm going to show you guys is the elf race. The elf race is pretty much similar to the human race. You can see that they both have almost the same physical appearance. Really, the only difference in humans and elves in terms of physical appearance is just their ears. So if you look, you can kind of see that the ears on elves a little bit more pointier. They're a little bit longer. You can kind of change the ears if you want to. They also have their own racial tattoos, which humans don't have. So it's kind of hard to see with this mask on my face, but it's there. There's some racial tattoos that you can get. There are some other tattoos that humans can get, but it's not really a racial tattoo. So do keep in mind that there are different tattoos that you can get for specifically the elf race. Alright, so let's go on to our next character. Or race. Alright, so the third race that you can get in Mabinogi is the giant race. The giant in this video here is kind of short because of the age, so do keep in mind they can actually be taller than this. Obviously, the main physical appearance that's different from giants and humans and elves here would be the height of the giant. The giants are usually really tall, well built. They've got their own racial tattoos as well, like the elves, special racial tattoos, and their customized looks are different as well. So there's some looks in here that you can get just only for the giants and not for the other races. So do keep that in mind. Alright, so that is basically all the physical appearances of the 3 races. Let's go on to the next topic. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to talk about would be the very common differences between the 3 races. Now you can see for the human race, they're more of a balanced race. They don't really excel in anything tremendously. They're just kind of like the middle of both races. When Mabinogi first started, basically humans were the only race possible to be chosen, so it was very popular, and because of that, in Mabinogi there are so many things catered to humans in terms of clothing, gears, things like that. So that is one of the benefits to being humans. They're pretty much a jack of all trades. Elves, on the other hand, have an advantage in magic and archery. They basically excel in stats of mana, int, and dex, so it makes them really good archers and really good mages. Another popular feature that elves have that a lot of people tend to like is that elves are the fastest race in Mabinogi. They run 1.32 times faster than humans, 1.14 times faster than giants. They have a higher potential mana output, which again, like I said, makes them better mages. And they can use skills like hide, which is an elf-only skill. I mean, you can technically hide with a crystal reindeer, but elves can just use this feature just for themselves in battle, so they can get out of aggro and stuff like that. It doesn't really work well in PvP though. Elves can also only hold quivers that are elf-only items. It's basically this thing that holds 500 arrows versus the other quiver that holds only 100. And pretty much is the elf-only thing. I mean, if you have things like these sharp bundles of whatever's like arrows that hold 1,000, then obviously it defeats the purpose of having that 500 quiver elf-only special item. But if you're a free player and you want to hold the most arrows, elves are the ones that hold the most out of all the races. The range attack for elves are also different. You can see that for elves you can run even though you have the skill loaded. Now if you're a human, if you try to run with the skill loaded, you would be walking instead, like this. Elves can also shoot 2 arrows instead of 1 arrow in comparison to humans. Elves are also the only race that can shoot range attack skills on top of a pet. Now do keep in mind that this only applies to pets that don't fly, with the exception of some Pegasus, dragons, and crystal reindeer, I believe. They also have a shorter magnum shot cooldown, but I honestly don't think that matters too much. Boom! There are some skills that elves only have, and they basically are Mirage Missile and Final Shot. So Mirage Missile is basically this skill here, causes some damage to nearby enemies, and unfortunately I don't have Final Shot on this character, but it's basically a final hit, but with arrows. Kind of like teleport to enemies nearby and shoot them up close. Now before you're completely sold on being an elf, do keep in mind that there are some disadvantages to being an elf. One of the most common disadvantages is the fact that they have a lower potential will and strength output than all the other races. Basically that means that they're not as good in melee or combat related skills, so do keep that in mind. Their archery and magic skills also require more AP to rank than all the other races, about 10 to 20 AP more, not too much, but it's kind of a given since they're really good at those subjects. They also cannot equip two-handed weapons or lances, with the exception of, scythes, but I wouldn't count those. But basically, yeah, they can't equip two-handed weapons. They can't dual-wield weapons. And also because of the fact that they cannot equip lances, they cannot learn Berserk. To pretty much sum it up, elves are really good in archery and magic, but not so much in melee. They can be useful in terms of hiding, double shotting with their arrows, kiting. Basically, they are also very similar to humans in terms of their physical appearance, so that gives them plenty of decent gears in Mabinogi to obtain in comparison to giants. Alright, speaking of giants, let's go on to our next race and show what they have. Okay, so now it is the giants' turn to shine. As you can see, the giants are basically the tall races in Mabinogi. You can pretty much easily distinguish between who is a giant and who is not. Here is a side-by-side comparison between a giant and an NPC or a normal 17-year-old character. But besides the obvious physical appearances, there are other advantages and disadvantages that giants have. The one advantage of being a giant is the fact that they specialize in health, strength, and will, which basically makes them good in combat and fighter. As a giant, you also get a special feature to carry giant allied humans on your shoulder, as so. It might look kind of weird to carry an old person on your shoulder, but you can still do it. Unfortunately, you can only carry one person at a time, so you can't really carry 2 people on both shoulders. Giants also have a really neat feature to break some of the trees in Physis to obtain a wooden log weapon. It's not really for anything, it's just for, just for the heck of it. But hey, it looks awesome while you're holding it. And this is definitely only for giants. Giants also have quite a few giant-only weapons, such as adoladals that are equipped with javelins. So they're basically range weapons for giants. They have you launch javelins at enemies. and also giant blunt weapons, or giant swords, or giant axes. Also, because giants have a potential higher HP, will, strength, and stam than humans and elves, they can actually make decent alchemists because of the HP and stam. They can also dual wield only one-handed blunt weapons. So any one-handed blunt weapons can be dual wielded by giants. No one else can dual wield blunt weapons. They can also hold two-handed swords as a single-handed sword and hold another shield or guard cylinder on the other hand. In terms of skills, giants have a reduced minimum distance with lances, higher splash range. They deal a lot more damage with smash than all the other races. They have more defense with their defense skill, and they do more damage with their counterattack skill. The charge skill for giants also gives twice as much damage than all the other races, and you can use it without holding a shield. Now, there are some reforges out there that you can have your human equip and it will say charge without shield, so that can be done without a shield. However, for giants, you can still use charge without a shield even without the reforge. Giants also have giant only skills such as Stomp, Taunt, and Wind Guard. Now, Taunt is basically a skill that aggroes enemies nearby, and Wind Guard can protect you from damage. It's basically a skill that can have giants literally being invulnerable to any damage. Giants also have a shorter windmill cooldown, and they can tumble further than any other race. Alright, so here comes the disadvantages for being a giant. The disadvantages for being a giant is, one, they have a larger hitbox, so they're most likely gonna get easily hit. They also use more mana for magic-related skills. Obviously, magic's not really their expertise in Mabinogi. They also receive less mana and int through aging, and also through magic skills like Magic Mastery. They cannot learn how to play dead or even rock throw. These are some of the fun action skills that people tend to love doing in Mabinogi, but unfortunately giants don't have that ability to do so. They also cannot equip bows or arrows, which basically means they cannot learn any archery skills whatsoever. However, they can use javelins or atlatls, which is kind of the only range skill that they have besides using magic, which is not really ideal for giants. So now, what about humans? Like I said before, humans are a balanced class. They are basically the jack of all trades. They can learn anything in Mabinogi besides skills that are only elf exclusive or giant exclusive. So they can learn archery skills, they can learn melee skills, they can learn magic skills, any type of skills. They're not restricted based on race. Most weapons and gears on Mabinogi can be equipped by humans. So things like lances, dual wielding weapons, they can all be used by humans regardless of race. The only downside, as I mentioned before, is that when humans use archery skills, they walk instead of elves being able to run when they load their range attack skills. Humans also have a balanced growth in all stats. They don't really heavily focus on melee or, int. They're pretty much balanced. However, they do have human-only skills. One of the human-only skills that they have is Final Hit and Arrow Revolver. Final Hit is a human-exclusive skill, and it basically lets the player teleport to the nearby enemy and constantly attack them. It's kind of like similar to Final Shot for elves. Now, the disadvantage to being a human, as I mentioned before, is that humans are the slowest race on Mabinogi in terms of walking speed and running speed. So as you can see, they can easily get outchased by an enemy unless they have pets or a mount. or even use nearby obstacles to protect them. The other human exclusive skill is Arrow Revolver, and Arrow Revolver is basically a skill that's like a chain casted range attack. It preloads 5 arrows for you, so they're ready to be shot at the enemy. Now it all comes down to the final question, which is what race should I choose in Mabinogi? Now if you are a new player in Mabinogi, I would highly suggest you choose a human character, because not only is it just balanced, but you can also earn a elf and giant allied card. So in order to do that, all you gotta do is create a human character, go to the appropriate town you wish to be allied with. So if you want to be an elf allied, go to the Philia and see the chief there. Or if you want to be a giant allied, go to Vales and see the chief there. And when you talk to them with the keyword elf and giant, basically you can receive a giant or elf allied card. Now you can actually receive both of them if you want both. You just have to break one of the alliances and go to a different one. You can always switch back and forth. It's, not something that it's set in stone. It's not like some sort of initiation thing where it's like once you are a giant allied you can never go back. Now, do keep in mind that you can only receive 1 giant and 1 elf allied card per account. You can't really make a new human character and expect to get another elf and giant allied card. It's not gonna work. Also, it's really good to know that the giant and elf allied feature is a added benefit for humans. I mean, as I mentioned before, if you're a giant allied, you can ride on giant shoulders. If you're an elf allied, you're gonna get some benefits in Philia, where you can get a buff from the chief. Same thing like Vales, you can get a buff from the chief. You can also get race discounts on the price of things in their town. Now another thing that you can get is special L-rods. Now originally these L-rods are only for giant or elves only, but if you are allied with them, they will turn it into a human version for you. So for example, the Snowfield L-rod for the giant will create a hole in the Roos River so you can ice fish in it. For the warm and cold wind L-rods for the elves, they will help you raise or lower the terrain in Konas if you want to find specific artifacts or lost elves. Ultimately, it is your decision, your fantasy life, to decide on what race you like to play as. They're all great, they all have their ups and downs, so decide on what you want to play and play it. Thanks you guys for watching, and like always, stay awesome!